Regardless of our circumstances, a merry heart is good medicine for our souls. And so in this journal entry, I'm not focused on doing a self-portrait or anything dramatic. Sometimes I just like to paint cute, warm, fuzzy girls and put a scripture with it. So this is really just a feel-good, fun, simple drawing here. And you'll see that I'm working on drawing the head shape. I'm not worried about getting it perfect. I usually put a center line so that I can put my eyes. And then I split the face so that I can get some symmetry. Now, none of our faces are perfect, and our paintings won't be either, but this gives us a starting point. So once you've got this shape going, you're fine because it's going to change a lot as you work. So don't worry about getting that perfect. You can turn it upside down and take a look at it. You can also reflect it in a mirror to see if there's anything just really screaming that needs to be changed. But this is a good working shape. You can see that I also took some of this pencil mark back off. I just need a light enough guide to place objects on the face. Now the eyes are going to be centered here in the head, and I'm going to just start with a couple of arches. You want about an eye distance width in between, but depending on the style you're going for, and remember we're not going realistic, we're going just fun here. So we'll come in and put in a couple of arches, and we'll drop in the eyeball here. Don't be so concerned about perfectly matching eyes because we don't have perfectly matching eyes. If something is just completely off, fix it, but don't fret over imperfection in these eyes. Now I've put in the eyeball. I'm going to go ahead and put in the iris. And you want to come down and not necessarily try to make the perfectly round shape that you see in eyes. When we're painting and adding color here, you don't want to see much white because in the image you'll see that when you do that someone will look frightened or scared. And so you can see here there's very little white showing in these eyes. I had this particular little angel looking upward so you can see a little bit more of the white. This one though I want looking forward, so I'm going to pull that color all the way down, and I'm going to put in sort of an oblong pupil. And then I'm going to come across and put in the bottom of the eye, the bottom eyelid. That's going to take off that roundness at the bottom. And of course you can shape these any way that you want to. I can see that this one comes up more, so I might do a little adjusting and make those eyes match. I'm not going to be too worried about it at this point. I can do some adjustment to detail later. Now, between this line and the chin, we want to come in about halfway in between and put our nose. And then from the nose to the chin, about halfway, put in our mouth. So proportionally, this is fairly accurate to an adult head. Of course, the eyes are way overstated here. One of the things that I did a lot when I was first drawing faces is get the eyes too high on the forehead. I put them up here in this part, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong, but there was always just something a little bit off on my facial features. You can see here another started drawing where the eyes are centered, because once you get the hair in, it takes much of that forehead away and it puts the eyes in the correct place. So I did a little correcting on the eyes. Not sure that I'm super delighted in them, but I evened them up a little bit. Gave them a little upturn, and we'll see if I like those later on. I am going to put a fold here for the upper eyelid, which gives me a little more idea of what they might look like when I'm finished. I put in just a circle here for the ball of the nose, put in a couple of smaller circles next to it. Tend to get these too big sometimes for my nose. And then just below my nose, I'm going to put in kind of an M shape for my lips. I want us to have a wide smile here, her to be happy. And so there's the upper lip. You can see my character change a little bit at a time as I work on her, and really that's the way God does us. It's not just a one shot and we're done. God is constantly working on us, and when you're drawing, you will make little incremental changes that will affect your drawing in a big way. So as I go through this, you'll see that I change the nose several times and I work on the shape of the face. You'll see that I change and erase and redo, and that's kind of like the way our life is. We step out in faith with God, and whenever things don't work, when we're not in His will, we back up and we try again. And those little incremental changes in our life make a huge difference. Remember, this is our positive journal, our journal where we're keeping things we're thankful for, and also things that just make us feel good. While I know that God's angels are warriors and aren't these cute little warm fuzzy girls, but sometimes I just like to draw them. They make me feel good. So when you're thinking about what to work on in your journal, paint something that makes you happy. Something that you might be able to share with others, that you might be able to scan and give away, or just to bring yourself some joy when you paint and create. And think about scriptures that really speak to you as you're creating something fun. I'll start adding a neck here to the girl, and you don't have to be realistic. You can do a thicker, more realistic neck or go very thin. You can see it in a couple of my drawings. This one's got a really thin neck. The angel that's looking up has just a little bit thicker neck here. So do what looks right to you. Don't worry about getting everything in perfect proportion. I don't get too caught up in the outfit. I usually try to keep it pretty simple. You can decide whether you want the hands showing. In some of mine I have the girls holding a heart or a dove or something in front of them, or you can just drop the arms kind of down at their sides and behind them. You may want to add a simple necklace. You can see here with a little heart. I don't think I'm going to add one in this one though. I really am keeping her very simple. I'm going to start adding some color with green and yellow watercolor crayons, and I will just work through this pretty quickly and get a background color going. I'm just adding a little bit of blue here to the irises and the pupils. I'm not concerned about getting it perfect. You can see here that the eyes aren't the same size. I'll go back in with a little white acrylic and fix that so that the irises match a little bit more. So now I'm going to take some flesh color and start adding that in. You want to be sure that your other paint is dry or you'll get a mix of color when those start to touch. So I'll start adding this in, and I'm thinking about where my light is coming and making some darker spots and going a little bit lighter on the side where the light's shining. I learned a little painting trick using acrylic flesh colored paint from Tamara Laporte, and I love the way this works. Once you've used pencil and you got the watercolor happening, sometimes you get a little bit of a residue from the pencil in your paint, kind of a mucky color, and so while it's wet you can take a wet brush, dip it in some acrylic, and mix that in with your watercolor, and it just gives a beautiful coverage that still has that kind of translucent watercolor effect. Now I've just got a baby wipe here and I'm tapping the paint, kind of lightening up where the light would be shining on the forehead and the face to take away some of that paint I've added and give kind of a highlight effect. I'm going to add black permanent marker to the eyes, but I can't see that good with my readers and I have to get really close to do this detail. So you'll see here where it's finished, where I've done the pupils and the eyelashes. I'll also use a real fine tip sepia marker for some other details. You can see I've added white highlights to the face, to the eyes, to the hair. Anywhere that the light would be reflecting, you can use a little bit of white. I also darkened up the background. I added some blues and a little bit of purple in just to shade right around her to kind of pop her out of the background. I printed out some different fonts with the scripture that I wanted because I don't love my handwriting. So I try out different fonts and decide kind of what I want it to look like. And then I write it myself, but I have kind of a guide to go by that I can look at and recreate some of those fonts. I penciled it in first, and then I'm just going back over it with the permanent marker. And here is our finished little girl. A merry heart does good like medicine.